Well, hello, YouTubers. Joe Kersey here on November 25th, Monday, at 4:30 in the afternoon Eastern Time. Now, for me, it's been a fairly full day. I got up at 4, well, a little after 4. I actually slept straight through for 8 hours. That's a blessing. Thanks be to God on that one. And then I was able to read a little bit more into the N.T. Wright book, Paul and the faithfulness of God, and I'm up to around, I'm almost into 400 pages of this 2,100 page thing, so we're soldiering on. But I mean, the thing is, he gives you extensive references, and then of course, he also has extensive quotes from the Greek New Testament. So I have to go back to my Greek New Testament, interlinear. I mean, it's got a cheat sheet, in the middle of each line, and sometimes you have to go to the Strong's dictionary, which is a minimal dictionary, but at least it gives you a better idea of some of the fuller meanings of some of these words. So it's a bit of a slow going, but it's worthwhile. It's worthwhile. I like this guy's approach. Now, I don't like his own translation of the New Testament. I think I've mentioned that before, but I just pick up the King James, or I pick up the NRSV, to compare. The NRSV at least has the variant readings in some of the older texts, and of course it also has the Textus Receptus, Textus Receptus, upon which the authorized version, the King James, is based. So it's a good start, and then did my usual Daily Telegraph, Daily Mail, what the Wall Street Journal lets me read things, and of course the email, the daily email, and held myself in readiness to go grocery shopping and funeralizing here, which I left at 11:30 this morning to do. And found all the groceries okay, and then I thought, well, I need to look for all cotton underwear, long underwear. Well, to skip ahead briefly, it turns out I'm good for another year or two on that. Although basically my policy is, if you can find them, buy them, because one, they don't last all that long, and two, you can't find these things every year. You just can't. When I came home, I looked at the Morgan Mills website, which is one of the few companies that offers all cotton long underwear anymore. And I thought, well, before I order, I better check my inventory. And I have enough for a couple of years, so I won't drop the $100 or so on this stuff to replace. Because when the legs don't wear out, and if you buy it slightly smaller than what you need, the waistbands, even when they shrink, but then they stretch a bit, and then eventually they wear out. So you end up having to hold up your long underwear with underwear that's got functioning elastic over top of it. Now the problem, of course, is also that the crotch wears out. You've got your behind hanging out, and your wazoos and goodies hanging out. So then, your hold-up underwear serves a bit of a function, but it's every now and again these things get so bad they just end up being doorstop rags. You put them against the bottom of the door to keep the drafts coming in, that sort of thing, or oil change rags, or that sort of stuff. that sort of stuff, or glasses cleaning rags. Perhaps even stuff behind the faucet in the sink to catch all the water that drips out of the core that leaks all the time, when you turn it on. They're very useful devices, these worn out long underwear pants. Paul's been watching his computer here while I've been discussing this. We tried to watch the launch of this Progress resupply vehicle to the space station today, but the Russian video feed cut out, in the last 2 minutes. So we got to watch an animation. But by that time, the space station proper was in the sun, or was coming into the sunrise. So we could and they actually had the camera outside turned on, so you could watch the ocean go by underneath. So that's always fun to do. To get now into the more substantive part of the day. So I told you I went to Walmart, and then I dropped off some mail for Paul at the post office. But on the way up, I went to church. I indicated this fellow's mother, was being funeralized here today, and it turns out it was actually a Holy Communion service. It wasn't just the office; it was the Holy Communion service. The office is the anti-communion part of the service, and I didn't read. The deacon seemed somewhat surprised about that. I said, well, Charles didn't ask me to read, so that's fine. And it was a small group. Still, where two or three are gathered together in my name, I shall be with you. And there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were six of us from St. Peter's who were actually in the congregation, and then we had our brand new, first day on the job parish administrator, who's she lived in New York for a number of years and had a job in corporate finance or finance on Wall Street, anyway, she and her husband are now living in North Columbus, and she, applied for this job, and the vestry hired her. The vestry and the rector hired her, and so good for her. This being in the midst, you're in the crosshairs when you're in one of these jobs. This is kind of a thankless task, still, and I don't know if she's going to come to our church or. Maybe it's best just to have somebody with an arm's length distance for all this stuff. We shall see. Anyway, she seemed very pleasant. I sent her an email this morning. I said, welcome to St. Peter's. And then I gathered that's who she was at the funeral service, because she was sitting way in the back. Excuse me. And she was looking around, reading all the stuff, familiarizing herself. She's the new girl, new woman. No, it's first day on the job stuff, Good for her. Excellent. So now, of course, the family was there. Now, the guy was there with his daughter, and then his wife. It's sort of they're going through this divorce. It's they're estranged. The daughter lives with her most of the time, but he gets to see her and take her places, And so, you had him. That was him from his, his side of the family. Sounds like a wedding. Then his side of the family, her side of the family. Are you friends of the estranged man? Are you friends of the estranged woman? But she had, let's see, 1, 2, 3. She had 3 other people with her. Yes. Maybe 4 other people with her. And they were all from her family. And then they were all clearly her brothers or sisters, or maybe there was a cousin somewhere in there. Because you could tell, who looked like who. Well, there was a bit of palpable tension there, but people carried on. The only person that acted happy about all this, happy's not the right word, I suppose, but uh, unaffected by this, and I mean, unaffected in the sense of not affected, but you know, you know, not having any affect as far as putting on a show either was the daughter. She's trying to tell her age. She's got to be. She's older than 5, but she's younger than 8. Um, Happy little soul. Converses very freely with adults in a non-in-your-face, silly way. That's very pleasant when you have a child that does that. Don't. All right. They all came into, I guess, somebody put together some coffee and cookies for, people. They sort of wandered in and sort of lined up in a file and then didn't have anything. Of course, I didn't have anything either, but I hung around. God bless these people for all this food, and I heard somebody, talk about funeral food and visitation food is, a lot of them are casseroles. There's one guy who used the phrase disaster rolls, But, you could tell everybody just basically wanted to get the F out of Dodge on this, we've observed the forms, we've done the right thing, let's just go. So, Paul, who is now watching something else over here, let's see. Oh, well, he's watching something else over here on his machine, let's put it that way. And, there's a job opening down at the hotel where he works, and told me about it. And so I wrote this stuff down on an index card, and I gave it to the guy. I said, this may not be the best moment to tell you about this, but here's an opportunity, because, he's lost his job. And so he seemed very pleased to get that little lead. So maybe something will work out, maybe something won't. We shall see. Meanwhile, this was just about a half hour or so after I got home. Well, and unloaded the truck from the grocery shopping and so forth. The phone rang and this number came up, and I vaguely remember the number, but I can't remember these cell phone numbers. So it turns out it's the rector. The rector called me, and he was on his way down to Columbus to take his cello, his daughter's cello, to her down at the school she goes to in Columbus. Now, this is interesting to me. The explanation was, I'm taking so-and-so's cello down here because she forgot it this morning. Now, this kid's about 9 or 10. How can you forget to take your cello? First of all, you have cello practice and rehearsal and lessons at the end of the school day. So you'd think you would take your cello. But she forgot to take her cello. First of all, this thing's just about as big as she is. Now, she's finally gotten taller than it. But, come on. I think there's a little bump being blown my way on that one. Well, anyway, so the real point of his thing was, other than just to, shoot the breeze on the way, he's talking on the phone on the way down to Columbus. First of all, this is not the way to do things. Don't talk on the phone when you drive. That's like a chick, isn't it? I'm sorry. That's very sexist of me. But I'm really basing that on, that is an empirical statement based on my observations around here. Well, that's redundant, isn't it? It's an empirical statement. So this guy, God bless him, you know. First of all, he gave a hell of a funeral oration. He always does. He does a good funeral oration. He really does. You know, that's some of his other stuff I don't much care for or get much out of, but well, except for the last 2 or 3 minutes. See, if he basically spoke for the last 2 or 3 minutes of all of his sermons, it would be wonderful. It's all the lead-in and build-up and all the contemporary relativity, relevant crap that he puts in that bothers me. But he doesn't do that in a funeral sermon. He talks about your soul and the resurrection. Your new life with God, in the presence of God, you know, where you know all things, and the resurrection. He talks about that. See, he talks about the real stuff, not this trendy. You know, he doesn't quote popular songs or videos. He doesn't make jokes. He's good. Well, okay. Well, so I got off track. Perhaps we'll come marching back. Well, well, no, this guy has a pattern of being, he gets sick in Advent. Typically, the second Sunday in Advent, he's missed because he's been sick. So he's calling me from the road, US 23 going south, to say that he feels like he's getting sick. And, you know, since I had pointed out to him he always gets sick in Advent, he thought he ought to tell me. I said, well, I hope you don't, hope you fight it off, you know. So maybe you will. He said, I didn't get a flu shot. Well, I said, I know I'm supposed to say you're supposed to get a flu shot to parrot the party line, but I myself don't inject that crud into me. Maybe I'll be sorry one day. But, you know, see, you can't make a causality statement there. I mean, you know, that's one outlier does not a bell curve make. It might lie on somebody's bell curve, but not on your own individual bell curve. Well, all right. Well, so this is where the day stands. Paul's watching some videos, and I'm making this one, and then I may get on the video horn to my ex-wife. Who knows? And then, by the grace of God, we'll have some of our daily bread, which is residing even now on the top of the stove. So, goodbye, and God bless you all, YouTubers.